Yay!
So,
Yay!
have you started pressing play yet? Or you have?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. Hi, this is Debra, and I'm here with Dr. Tumi Johnson. Hi. And Dr. Tumi Johnson is board certified in internal medicine. She is a physician, dancer, and poet. And she's also a diplomat of the American Board of Integrative Holistic Medicine. I'm reading from her new book called Delicious Healing. So I just want to make sure you're a yoga practitioner for over 20 years. You are an assistant clinical professor of medicine at NYU, a graduate of the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, ran a weight management clinic in New York City, Doctors Without Borders in West Africa. So I just think you're such an interesting, I feel like the rest we'll probably just end up talking about. But we met at the Raw Living Expo in 2014, and we both signed up for each other's newsletter. And we've just stayed in touch since then, and now we both happen to be here in Southern California at the same time, and I just I feel like the whole world needs to know more about you, and I love that you I love hearing about your lifestyle right now, that you're traveling the world and that you work with clients, you know, virtually, and you know, you're on book tour right now, so there's so much, and I love that you dance.
Thank you.
It's like, I feel like it's rare to meet someone who has like the training, the MD, and and even the naturopathic, you know, that you know, you're a raw foodist and that you dance every day, and it's just such a model for how to live like truly a healthy lifestyle. So
Thank you, Debra. And it feels so good to be here and just share this space with you. And I think they're just people in your life that you make a connection with, and it just feels so good and so right. And I felt that with you from the beginning. And I think, you know, you talk about these different aspects of what I do and my lifestyle, and basically it boils down to doing the things that are really exciting for me and that feel aligned with who I am, and continue to feel aligned with who I am. And so I think a lot of times in our society we have very archaic and very old school ideas of having to choose to be certain things, and if you're going to be this thing, then you can't be another thing. And that never sat right with me. So I feel like I have an amazing life that I'm so thankful for, because I unapologetically live the life that brings me my greatest joy. And I think that's the best way we can be of service, really, to others.
So how did you go from, I'm just imagining like you graduating from med school, right? And then were you in a traditional practice at first, and then did you make a transition, or how were you always kind of a free spirit, or like were you kind of like in the system and then you broke out, or how did you
I love it. So I am originally from Nigeria, and I spent the first 12 years of my life in Nigeria, and I say that because I think it's a really important part of my history, because my parents are both professors, and education was always really important to them. And I wrote my first poem got published. My first published poem was when I was 8 years old. But even when I was quite little, I knew that I wanted to be a doctor, but I was already creating dances. And so there were all these different parts of me, and I decided I wanted to do it all until one of them didn't feel exciting to me anymore. And poetry, medicine, and dance kept on being exciting for me at age 8 and 12 and 18. And I think coming from a West African culture where there's this idea of inclusion and community as opposed to maybe more specificity. And again, this whole idea of being boxed in was helpful for me to not fall into, oh, I have to choose. So my mother got me this huge, I was always into alternative medicine. I used to make poultices and herbal teas when I was 11, 12, 13. So my mother got me this huge book called Alternative Medicine when I was 13 or 14 that I read cover to cover. But I went through a traditional medical school program. I did my residency in internal medicine, and so did the residency thing. And then I promptly went off to West Africa, back to West Africa, to work as a field doctor for Doctors Without Borders. And when I came back to New York City at the time, it was really clear to me that I could not practice traditional medicine, in the sense that I didn't want to spend only 15 minutes with my patients. That just seemed absurd. And I wanted to be able to incorporate the things that I was already feeling in my life that made me feel healthy. And that was not pharmaceutical medication. That was yoga, which I started practicing when I was about 12 or 13. That was movement practice. I was dancing, and I joined a professional dance company when I moved back to New York. So movement, yoga, mindfulness and meditation, nutrition. I overhauled my diet when I came back from Africa as a field doctor. And that's when I moved completely to a plant foods diet, because the data was clear to me doing the research that that is really what supported vitality, and that is what we as humans were really designed to be eating, was food from Mama Nature. And so I wanted to be able to talk about this with my patients, and I just didn't feel the traditional system was nurturing me in doing that. And so that's when I opened up my private holistic health practice. So I was still in the system, but I was negotiating the system using the things that felt true to me, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And if you feel comfortable sharing,
Yeah.
like when you transitioned to a plant-based diet,
Yes.
how did that change your sense of well-being?
Great question. So this book, Delicious Healing, is like part wellness roadmap for people, because everything I share about here is what I went through. And I had severe, severe depression. I got to a place where the pain of living felt more than the pain of dying. And that's a really dark place to be. And I was struggling with depression. I was struggling with a lifelong history of pretty bad asthma. I had eczema. I would have breakouts all through my neck, my elbows, the backs of my knees. It was really uncomfortable. I had disordered eating behavior that started spiraling out of control in university. And when I switched to a plant foods diet, I gave up dairy, and within a week my asthma symptoms went away, and that was huge for me. When I gave up gluten, my eczema resolved, and on a plant foods diet, my depression completely resolved. And I was floored, because I was already a doctor at this point, and I never knew that the power of food could be this strong. And so I started doing more research and more nutrition studying. And then I had to share the knowledge, and I had to start talking to my patients about what they were eating and start sharing that. So it absolutely transformed my life. Mm-hmm. And so I share that story in this book, as well as what meditation did for me and what movement did for me. Because I think it's not just about food, it's a holistic approach. And so I shared those as well as practical tips in this book.
Thank you. And so I can imagine that there's probably people watching that want you to be their doctor, I'm guessing, because I feel like too, with my audience, me being also like a raw food chef and vegan, like I know I always seek out, doctors and help people that are healers and helpers that are like on the same page. So I want to ask you like 3 different questions at one time. So like in the past year, you said, how many countries have you been to?
Over 10 countries.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're like what they call like a kind of like a digital nomad, or?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would fall into that category. My sweetheart and I, Jade and I, we currently travel full time, and we have been doing that for over 2 years. And literally everything I own fits in a duffel bag. And I have a YouTube channel in which I share about holistic health, and I also dance, but I also speak about minimalism and how voluntary simplicity was also a big part of my health journey. And I have a video there showing everything that's in my bag. But so everything I own fits in that bag. So it makes it simple to travel that often and that much. And so I have a holistic health practice in which I do one-on-one consultations through Skype online. Mm-hmm. I also create and perform healing dances and healing presentations, holistic health talks blended with dance performance that I present all over the world. And then I have online programs. So a lot of my work is online.
And what is your website, or how do people
find me? So my holistic website, medical website, is www.drtumijohnson.com, drtumijohnson.com. And that's a good kind of landing page that can lead you to other things like my YouTube channel and my Instagram. But you can find me and set up holistic health consultations through that.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. And do your clients need to be like 100% raw, or like how do you?
Absolutely.
Would someone need to be scared? Like, oh my gosh, if I see Dr. Johnson, she's gonna make me be 100% raw, or like, or I don't know.
I love that question. So I eat a raw, living foods, plant foods diet because that's what helps me feel my very best. And I really believe in honoring people where they are. I really believe in eating intuitively while also knowing the knowledge and the science, and then making choices. And I guide people in naturally overcoming their health challenges through that approach, through a holistic approach. And it feels so good to do that and to help people feel amazing in their bodies and to feel empowered to living, not just to be healthy, but to living what I consider your most delicious life. Because that's what I feel like I'm living, my most delicious life every day.
It's so amazing. And you have a daily dance movement practice?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I do it not just to up my skills so that when I do dance performance, I'm on it, but also it helps keep me so centered, it helps keep me in the flow, in my flow, and in my intuition. Mm-hmm. So every morning I wake up and I meditate, and then I go into my dance practice. So to answer your question, I have patients and clients who are not even vegan, who are eating a paleo diet but I believe in honoring people where they are and working with them. Most likely, if you work with me, you will go through a period of a cleansing period where I will be working with you based on your individual health profile on a plant-based detoxification regimen. But then we segue you into a maintenance, longer-term diet that works for you. And that's based on what your needs are and what your desires are.
So cool. I love the dance movement piece because I'm also I love dance and movement too.
Yes.
And for me, dance and movement is medicine.
Absolutely.
You know, from I love to do authentic movement and ecstatic dance and 5 rhythms and all that and yoga. So it's there's so much. We were talking earlier about how when you start eating healthier, it's harder to suppress emotions. Emotions surface because we a lot of times stuff them down with food. And for me, in my experience, dance and movement is such a great way to kind of, because the emotions they're in our body.
Absolutely.
And to kind of move them and
absolutely to move them and transmute them, because sometimes our emotions, I feel like what I always share, and I share about this in this book also, I think we don't talk enough about emotions, and we feel sometimes, I think, a little bit afraid of them. And I used to have a real issue around the emotion of anger. I felt like I couldn't be a kind person if I felt anger. And so it was an emotion I used to try to stuff down and try to numb out from. And I think emotions, both the good ones and the ones that we consider more shadow emotions, can be incredible guides and incredible teachers. And the question then is to go to your emotion humbly and say, what is it that you're trying to teach me? And then listen. And if you listen through movement, that's beautiful. If you listen through getting still and closing your eyes and listening to that still small voice, that's awesome. If you listen through writing it out and letting that voice tell you, that is a form of listening. So each one of those or all of those, I think, are all beautiful ways of getting present with your emotion. And that is a vital part, I think, of the healing journey.
And I love that so by the way, your book is beautiful, and it's
Thank
published
you.
with Balboa Press, which is a division of Hay House. And I love that you have, is it every chapter has one of these
QR codes.
QR code.
So you can scan the code at the end of the chapter. So every chapter starts with a poem that I write around the subject. And then I share my story. I share about the medical literature supporting what I'm talking about. And then at the end, I actually give you a prescription, what I call my version of a prescription. So giving you practical tips you can now implement in your individual life for making the shift, whether it's in exercise, whether it's in yoga, whether it's in meditation. And then I end with the medicine of dance. So I create healing dances with the intention that the dance performance I'm performing helps to shift things in your journey. So you can literally scan this and then you can watch the dance
of you. It's so cool. I've never seen a book like this before. I mean, it's so incredibly professionally put together, and then I've never seen a book that has a QR code with a video of the author dancing in every chapter. It's so amazing.
Thank you, Debra.
And this one you can also get on the 2 websites that you also shared?
Yeah, you can get this on the Dr. Tumi Johnson website that I shared with you. There's a link to that. It's on Balboa's website, and it's also on Amazon. So you can get a paperback copy on Amazon. You can get the ebook for now through Balboa. But just go to my website, and it's there about the book and where you can get your copies from.
That's cool. And then I also, if you're open to sharing too, I would love for you to name the countries that you've been in this past year, because I think it's really, it's inspiring. I think a lot of people dream of living the lifestyle that you live and traveling all over the world and working and, and virtually and what you do.
So we were in no particular order, Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand, Cambodia, Slovenia, Croatia, Spain, America. We were also in, that's all that's coming to me right now.
And you're about to go to some more countries.
We're about to go to Costa Rica. Yeah. And
so amazing.
One thing I was sharing, because I think that can sound like a lot of shifts, a lot of movement. I have on my YouTube videos, I did a video on how to prevent jet lag, because this is key in my life. If I'm crossing so many time zones and doing that so often, I literally can get off the plane and I'm energized and I'm at the place, I'm in the time zone of the place that I'm in, and I'm alert. And there's definitely a strategy for that. So I have a video on that. But I think another key element that helps me stay grounded as we move so much is the recognition that I am home, that wherever we are, home is here. So doing whatever self-care practices that you love, like Debra, you talked about your dance practice, you make amazing, nourishing, vital food. Doing those things that you love to do that help you feel like yourself wherever in the globe that you are, I think is one of the most grounding things you can do. And having a rhythm to your days also can help with that.
I like that. It's so amazing. Yeah, I'm so grateful that our paths have crossed, because we literally hadn't seen each other in, I think, probably 4 years.
Yeah.
And
yes.
And here we are.
Here we are.
So, and you just were here because you did a book talk at UC Irvine?
UC Irvine, I did. So I'm doing a dance book tour. So sharing about the book, but not just reading the book, dancing, and also giving some health tips around that. So I did a dance book event around the subject of mental health, which is not talked about enough in UC Irvine. And reached out. Debra said, hey, and I said, hey, and then we just connected, and it worked so beautifully.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to see you.
I'm grateful to be here in your presence. Really.
So, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
So, and yeah, again, do you want to repeat your website one more time at the end?
Sure. So my website is www.drtumijohnson.com, DRTUMIJOHNSON.com, and I'm on Instagram and YouTube. The handle in both Instagram and YouTube is The Poem Dances, all one word, ThePoemDances.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Debra. You too. So lovely talking. You're really good at this. It's like so natural. Are we done? Just want to tell her?
If you want to be. Should I stop?
Sure.